The New York Jets made 3 claims after the initial 53 was released. They had to make 3 corresponding cuts, including a surprise, at least for the time being, demotion of wide receiver Tyler Johnson. And we have 14 of the 17-man practice squad already filled out. So a lot of moving and shaking, but now you're kind of seeing the full picture of this roster. So the 3 claims that they made were, number 1, tight end Jelani Woods, which I thought was a worthwhile lottery ticket dart throw here. He's 26 years old. He's 6'7", 255 pounds. You remember Woods from the draft a few years ago, a 10.0 RAS score. Now I know 6'7", 250-pound tight end, 10.0 RAS score. That's Zach Kuntz. Jelani Woods was the 73rd overall pick because he could play football a little bit. He at least had a rookie season with at least 300 receiving yards. Jelani Woods is a football player. Jelani Woods is available because he hasn't been able to stay healthy. He's a better football player than Zach Kuntz. But the Colts could not trust him to stay healthy and available anymore, and they have a logjam and just their pass-catching unit in general. Most recently, it's been a toe injury. But with Woods, it hasn't been major, like, you see guys, he tore an ACL and then an Achilles. But it's been more nagging stuff. But obviously, that's the reason why he's available. And there wasn't a corresponding cut at tight end. So right now it's like 4 tight ends plus Beck, who's their fullback, and only 5 receivers. So we'll see how those numbers change as we head towards Pittsburgh. But I really like the addition of Jelani Woods. I mean, it's just a very low risk, potentially medium reward. Like no one's expecting him to become. I think if you can get a decent tight end 2 out of it, that'd be great. Obviously, he has a lot of physical traits to contribute as a blocker, but he has not been healthy enough to develop his game in that sense. But Jelani Woods, he was one of the names when he was waived. Honestly, he was the first guy I was like, hey, let's go get that dude. Jelani Woods right away. Now, Esa Pole. I had no idea who this was, but thankfully Dom C did. Dom C was pounding the table for Pole. He went undrafted in this year's draft class, picked up by Kansas City as a UDFA. And I did some looking at his scouting reports and stuff. I didn't know who he was. So this is just like today. I didn't know who he was before that. But I saw some outlets saying 6th or 7th round pick, goes undrafted. And Dom C says, not much of a run blocker and can't play guard. So there's a little one-dimensional and lack of positional versatility. But Dom likes his chops as a potential good backup pass protecting left tackle, kind of what the Jets were hoping to get out of Carter Warren. And yeah, man, obviously, if you can get that out of a UDFA, you would take that. So Esa Pole joins the New York Jets. Cam Jones was also claimed as a linebacker. The 25-year-old, he's an undersized. He's almost built like a safety, 6 foot, 225 pounds. Has 2 starts at linebacker over the last 2 years with Kansas City at the end of the season when they're resting their starters. So purely a special teamer. He played 2/3 of the special teams reps each of the last 2 years. And if you're into PFF grades for special teams, his were very, very high in the mid to high 80s both years. So it seems like a special teams. This coaching staff definitely values themselves from special teams for sure. So obviously 3 guys in, 3 guys need to leave. Zaire Barnes was released. So Cam Jones for Zaire Barnes, that's an easy swap. Marquise Hayes for Esa Pole. That's an easy swap. I think Barnes and Hayes were like the 2 guys where you're like, once they add some guys, we kind of knew they were probably going to be Jets for like 24 hours. But then Tyler Johnson was the 3rd, and that was surprising. Now, Tyler Johnson was released and brought back to the practice squad. Now, once we get to week 1, they have those certain number of times guys can be brought up to the practice squad and elevated for game day. And then somebody else will be inactive. So I'm sure Tyler Johnson will be called up, and then Tyler Barron or whatever will be inactive. And he's still practicing. So it may not really even change anything. It could just be a formality of roster gymnastics. But it's just typically you don't see that with a player that you figure to have a very significant role in your offense, right? Like in my mind, I'm like, oh, this is wide receiver 3. Maybe he still is. He got a lot of first team reps in the preseason. But or maybe they want to wait until after week 1, so his contract is not guaranteed. Again, there's just fine print stuff on this, but typically teams don't start the season with their quote unquote wide receiver 3 on the practice squad. So I don't know. Do they think higher of Arian Smith or Allen Lazard than we thought? or is this just a formality? And will Tyler Johnson be, rolling out there week one with the first team offense? I don't know. Well, that first team offense is probably going to have about 20 damn tight ends on it, man. I don't know if the Jets are going to throw. I mean, I want to find out what's the record of like run percentage in modern, like in recent NFL history, because I think the Jets might break it. I don't know if we're going to see a forward pass, man. Yeah, Tyler Johnson. That was a little surprising with Tyler Johnson. Now, the Jets had one player claimed. So the greatest show on turf of Brandon Smith, Quentin Skinner, Donovan Edwards, nobody picked up those guys. But JBC was claimed. So JBC was claimed by the Cleveland Browns. I was hoping to get him back. I think it was just a matter of they liked Stiggers better at special teams. Now, Carter Warren goes to the Atlanta practice squad. So once guys don't necessarily have to go back to your practice squad. They can go somewhere else where I think they have a better opportunity. If you're Carter Warren, you're like, bro, you just cut me over Marquise Hayes and Max Mitchell. I'll go to the Cardinals. They have an injury with Caleb McCreary, and maybe I'll have a better shot to play there. Edwards goes to the Commanders running back room. They just traded away, you know what? They just traded away Brian Robinson Jr. Did that happen? But the Jets obviously have three young running backs, and then Kane Nwangu is a kick returner. So maybe Edwards felt like that was a better opportunity for him. So I'm guessing the Jets offered those guys spots back on the practice squad, but I don't know. But they did not. They wanted to go elsewhere. They thought they had better opportunities. Now, who is on the Jets practice squad? 14 guys so far. We got safety Dean Clark, who he I think he's number 37. He's the dude who had the pick, the sack, the pass breakup. He had that really big game where he popped in against the Giants. Jordan Clark is the smaller nickel corner, who I believe is the son of Ryan Clark. One of them are, but I always get it wrong. I'm pretty sure it's Jordan Clark. It's the son of Ryan Clark. Quarterback Brady Cook, we knew that. Tyler Johnson, of course. Interior offensive lineman Cole Laveo, the thicker kicker, makes it. Harrison Mevis on the practice squad. Defensive tackle, that one tech, Peyton Page. I think there's an underrated ad. Peyton Page, I thought, had himself a decent preseason. Wide receiver Jamal Pritchett, linebacker Jackson Sermon, wide receiver Quentin Skinner, linebacker Boog Smith, wide receiver Brandon Smith, defensive lineman Eric Watts, offensive lineman Leander Wiegand, who of course gives us that free 17th spot for the international player program. So 14 guys out of 17 are on the practice squad. I would say just scanning the practice squad, I think they're going to probably add a running back. I think a running back on the practice squad makes sense. There's none right now. Maybe another tackle, because it's only an interior offensive lineman. So probably a tackle, a running back, and then who knows? But probably a tackle and a back. There we have it. Yeah, so 5 wide receivers as it stands right now. I was really surprised that Jelani Woods made it and Ruckert stayed. I was like, man, this team is legitimately going to run like 13 personnel every time. Oh, man. Super chat from Dave. Appreciate it, man. Hello, BJF. What's up, man? Appreciate that. Hope you're doing well. Give us throw something else in there, David. If you're gonna put your money in there, then let's chop it up about what you want to talk about. So put something in the comments. Give us a hot take, David. Give us your bold prediction. I was bold enough to say that Michael Clemens is ironically become almost underrated. Like, he's not the worst edge in the NFL because he's not the worst edge on the Jets. Unfortunately. Wish he was. But appreciate that, man, as always. Dean says Tyler Johnson awaits Lazard's trade to the Steelers the Monday after week 1. I don't know if they'll trade him to the Steelers. They could cut Lazard after week 1. They could absolutely just be the veteran call-ups. They did this a bunch of times in 2022 They had to do like the first 4 weeks of the season. It was just a veteran call up, and they used it to just protect other guys they wanted to keep. So that could be the case. I just still, if he, I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe I'm overthinking Tyler Johnson being on the practice squad because if he's when he's practicing, it makes no difference. He can still run with the first team offense if he's on the practice squad. But I'm like, man, do you put your wide receiver 3 on the practice squad? You know what I mean? So maybe I just overrated Tyler Johnson's role in this offense, A, or B, I'm overrating the significance of him starting on the practice squad. Probably the latter, but we will find out. We will find out soon enough. Yukon Jet says signing guys with crippling dead money is better than waiver claims. What do you mean? It sounds like sarcasm, but I don't know. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Yeah, they I like the tight end room, man. I like the bang for your buck in the tight end room. Mason Taylor, rookie, second rounder. Andrew Beck, Jelani Woods, Stone Smart, all for like vet minimum deals. And then you got Jeremy Ruckert in there, who maybe proves us wrong. I really like that wide receiver room, that tight end room. Now, of course, we could have, paid CJ Uzama more money than all of them combined. But Moogs was like, I don't want to do that. I know it's crazy. CJ Uzama was right there for the 17 million guarantee that the Jets gave him, but Moogs is deciding to roster 5 tight ends, one of them who could play fullback, one of them who's probably when he's at the end of his rookie contract is going to be like top 5 in Jets history of catches by a tight end, Mason Taylor. Another one who's like a freak show lottery ticket. All that you could just trade it for one CJ Uzama, but Moogie is being stubborn, man. He's like, no, I like this plan better. He's a funny cat. Yeah, you can only bring players up to the practice squad 4 times before you have to put them on the active roster. Just I get it. Like you just don't want to water down the level of player who can be on a roster. But just give them like 60 dudes. Who cares? Just give them 60 dudes and let them all dress on game day. Who cares? And if a team wants to play a crappy player, that's on them. You know? I don't know. I remember playing in high school. There was like a 90 dudes. Like 90 of us in high school. There can't be 60 on a professional team. Wish we didn't pass up on Trey Palmer. Yeah, he's just there's so many of these names, right? It's the same process every time. You see it's like insert this player has been waived by this team. And right away my brain goes, "Oh, I remember that name. I liked that player coming out of the draft." I'm like, "Let me see why they're released." Oh, they suck and or have been injured, right? So it's but what's up with Trey Palmer? Let's see what's he been up to. Is that the case? Actually, it looks like he had a pretty good rookie year. Started 8 games, had 39 catches for 385 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's a very encouraging rookie year. Next year, he starts 3 games, 172 catches, 1 touchdown. I know they have a lot of wide receiver depth in Tampa. They also have some injuries. I don't know why he's being released, but I think somebody already grabbed him. Looks like the Saints got him. Let's look at his nerd stats. What do the nerd stats tell us? Okay. Does he have a lot of drops? No, he's got 4 drops in over his 2 years. What's the rub? His yak kind of sucks. If he's like a more of a possession receiver, it seems like. I mean, yeah, man, I would have dude, I would have taken a chance on him and been more than happy to part with Alan Lazard or Tyler Johnson, to be honest. Well, Tyler Johnson's not even on our team. So it's not even Tyler Johnson. We could have parted with Ruckert and had Trey Palmer. Did that's come on. That seems like a no-brainer. But the Saints, did they have it? No, they didn't have a higher waiver claim than us. So the Jets put in a waiver claim on for Tommy Cutlets, but not Trey Palmer. I have questions. I have questions about this. So the Jets were gonna what roster Tommy DeVito? Just go 7-10 with some dignity without Tommy DeVito. But yeah, man, I would have liked some Trey Palmer. That's the thing with these young guys. Like, I don't think it's anyone saying that Brandon Smith or Skinner are going to be Hall of Famers. Maybe you do, but it's like you'd almost rather just or Pritchard. But it's like let's remind ourselves what the bar is. Like there's just like some dudes. Like Tyler Johnson could be taken by any team from our practice squad. No one's going to take him. Teams wanted Trey Palmer. I would have taken Trey Palmer, but I digress. Give me the wing thing. Yeah, they are going to run the ball an egregious amount of times. It's going to be diabolical. How do you think we beat the Steelers? It's going to be tough. That defense is nasty, man. I don't know if their rookie is going to play, but Watt, Hayward, Highsmith, Watt versus Membu, that's got to be like the worst possible matchup you can draw week one. Although I will say I like Membu. I think I like him versus Power earlier. I think I like Membu's ability to hang versus Power. I think what's going to give Membu a tougher time as a rookie is like what Kayvon Thibodeau did to him. Just that change in how explosive these guys are off the line of scrimmage. Now, obviously, TJ Watt is, he's good at everything, but he's just going to bull rush through your chest. But we'll see, man. That's a tough one to draw for sure. Well, that's why you take them. That's why you take them that high. We'll see what they have. I think like the first thing I'm looking at is the Jets defense versus the Steelers offense, and I would just probably look back at like what the Seahawks did to the Jets last year, and what the Rams did, and what the Bills did, and what the Broncos did, and what the Vikings did, which was blitz and clamp down on those hot routes and force the protection to hang up and Rodgers to hang in there for longer, like double move developing type of routes and live if they can hit those. Obviously, Rodgers in his career has destroyed those. That's how you become Rodgers. But last year, he just didn't seem to have. I think maybe just the fear of getting hurt was impacting him. I think it was impacting him, especially after those Denver and Minnesota games. He and making sure everything was right at the line of scrimmage, like before he could snap the ball, just because he was so afraid to get touched. Because at his age, man, it's like every time he got hit, like they're peeling him off the pavement. It's like, geez, and he's like limping over to the sideline. I know at the end of the year he was moving a little bit better, but you remember that first third of the season, it was like, dude, this guy is this every other hit. It's like, is he going to retire? So, yeah, I would say blitz, be aggressive, clamp down on those hot routes, and force the longer to trust your corners and man, and force the longer developing routes to beat you. I know it's crazy to say about Aaron Rodgers, but I watched it work last year and say, okay, Arthur Smith, you be better than Todd Downing, I guess. And if you are, then we'll take the L. But obviously, the plan on offense, we know the plan on offense. Brees, Braylon, Brees, Fields, Braylon, Brees. It's like bop it, but just with Brees, Braylon, Fields running the ball. Arian Smith end around. Boom. Yeah, if they're gonna be mid, be cheap. That's why sometimes I see comments like because I'll say, "Oh, I like this move, I like that move." People will say like, "Well, how are you hyping up this team?" And it's like, dude, just because I think Stone Smart was a worthy signing, or Andrew Beck was a worthy signing, or Harrison Phillips was a worthy signing, that doesn't mean the Jets are the Chiefs. It's like, all right, all we can do is look at the moves that they made and say if we think it was worth the value or not. I think the only questionable one, the biggest questionable one so far is like Stevens, but he seems to have done really well this summer because that's the only expensive investment they made. I guess Arian Smith, if people are still on about that, but it was still a fourth round pick. Alec Pearson coming. Maybe I gotta say I don't think so. But you never know. Pelicar says all this focus on the bubble guys has top end of the roster looking blurry. We have some great players. There's a lot of really good players. I think the Jets, this roster right now, so there are good players. There's a good amount of talent. I think the weaknesses on the roster, not even position wise, just looking at the totality of the talent is look, let's just be honest. Even if you're a Fields guy, which the Fields fans, the reason why I'm not embracing you with open arms is because you're going to be calling for my head coach to be fired by Thanksgiving. I know you are. I can already see it. The Jets are going to be like 3-5, and Fields is going to be kind of like, okay, but still kind of doing some Field stuff. And you're like, oh my God, Aaron Glenn, they're ruining Fields. So unless you could pinky promise that that's not coming, I'm keeping you at an arm's length, Justin Fields fans. But no, it's all good. Um, but look, review if the Jets had Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow, you're rating this talent on this team so much higher. Or if you knew if they had Sean McVay, we have an unknown head coach. We can like them, but they're still unknown in Glenn and Engstrand. And we have like a reclamation kind of project at QB. If we didn't have those, like if we had whatever, the Josh Allen and freaking Kevin O'Connell, we'd be like, oh, this team is loaded. Right? You give us Josh Allen and Kevin O'Connell, we're scoring 30 points a game without a wide receiver too. Right? So we kind of have a deficit mindset on the talent of the team because at the two most important positions, we have question marks, unknowns, or knowns that we're hoping get a lot better. And because of that, we're in the mindset that everything else has to be really good for us to have a chance outside of the wide receiver room depth, because it is getting to the point now where it's like, okay, it is significantly like bad. But a lot of other stuff is not that bad on the team. And I think that like they do have, I guess if they're going to run so much 12 personnel, it's like, look, we're going to have two wide receivers out there most of the time, and one of them is Garrett Wilson. So half our receivers that we're playing on any given down, one of them is Garrett Wilson. So all right. But yeah, I think so. Those are the two things. And then they also don't have and most teams don't, but they don't have a Myles Garrett, Justin Jefferson, a guy who's in the conversation for best non-quarterback. Sauce isn't quite there yet, and I think it will be really hard for a corner to be anyway, unless you're Surtain. Sauce is not there yet. Sauce is in the all-pro, really like elite player tier. Like, what would you compare Sauce to of another player? So a Sauce is like having a Brock Bowers. A Sauce is like having a maybe like an all-pro tackle or something, but not like Jamar Chase, Micah Parsons, right? Not one of those guys where you're going to pay him 45 million and they can give you like 3 more wins a year by themselves, right? So they don't have one of those dudes, which there's like 12 of them in the league, so no sweat. The question marks at coach and quarterback, And then really it's like the players 12 through 25. That's where the roster is kind of weak. Because it's not like 2020. In 2020, where it's like there's nobody like Sauce. There's nobody like Garrett. Even Quincy and Sherwood, Will McDonald, the offensive line, they're all pretty good. Most of them are pretty good. But then there's that kind of drop off. Like if you were to write down the best Jets on the team, once you get to like 12-ish, it drops off. And then from like 12 to 25, there's that gap where it's like there should be like really kind of like the JFM types, even the Tyler Conklin types of players. Maybe we have some, like maybe Stone Smart becomes one of those guys. Or maybe Andrew Beck or Harrison, Juwan Brace, maybe they become one of those guys. But right now, that's kind of the gap on the roster that the only way to fill it is to hit on mid-round picks. That's how you fill that part of the roster, is to hit on mid-round picks and develop them. Trey Palmer can return punts too. Why would you tell me that? We have Gibson over Trey Palmer. Another edge over another receiver. Yeah, I don't know. I think at this point, if they wanted to claim an edge, they would have. I think this is more like, besides practice squad call ups and maybe one more move, like I think this is kind of the team. Because yesterday you find out what 90% of the team is going to be. And now today you'll have like what 97% of the team is going to be. No reason to cut Lazard. He's really the wide receiver 3. We just really need a wide receiver 2 to step up. I would agree with that. Because at that point, I mean, wide receiver 2 is already not that much of a featured part of the offense compared to most. It's still important. The wide receiver 3 in a run heavy offense really can be, kind of a jag. But a second good receiver obviously would help for sure. Jacoby Myers is at practice. Appreciate it, David. Crazy to have 4 wide receivers on the practice squad and 0 running backs, especially when we were a run first team. Oh yeah, Corley. Speaking of that, Corley got signed by the Browns, I believe. So nobody claimed him, and then he was a free agent, because if you claim a player, you have to take on the rest of their money. So it's cheaper if you can just wait and then sign them. Well, Corley's getting another shot. Had to be the Browns though. Then they took Elijah Moore as well. Yeah, we'll get Will McDonald versus Broderick Jones, although he'll probably face Fontenot more over there on the right side. It'll be Michael Clemens and and Broderick Jones duking it out over there. A little bit of Jermaine sprinkled in. Jets should be able to stop Steelers' run game and force Rodgers into obvious passing downs. Well, that's what teams did to us last year. And for the most part, it worked. Yeah, Pole, Chiefs fans are right. He was their guy. He was their guy. We have to get him back to the practice squad. Watch Brownlee have 1,000 yards. I'm like, yeah, he did make the Chiefs. He made the 53. I think they don't want to make the same mistake with Corley and want to push Arian Smith in the offense as fast as possible. Yeah. I mean, Jeff Ulbrich came out and said like he had maturity issues. Obviously, like, it's tough because some people are of the mindset that because it's the Jets, you almost can't make any conclusions about a young player because it's the Jets. But uh, I don't know, man. Olu figured it out being coached by Keith Carter last year. I think nobody put a claim out for him. Every team was willing to let him go and then have him go to be signed. So I don't know, man. We'll see with Corley. Outside of receiver, would you say this roster has any significant holes? Well, I mean, well, if we're being honest, and it's not like they grow on trees, but they don't currently have a what we know to be an above average starting quarterback. That is a significant hole. Um, I think maybe you have one like a safety, like Tony Adams is he's kind of a hole. He's definitely a spot where at the very least he's a spot where you're looking to upgrade. Now it's not the most important position in the world, but it's just probably looking to upgrade. Um, Tight end, I wouldn't call tight end a hole. It's just there's unprovens. I can't call Mason Taylor a hole, right? But there's he's unproven. So pass catcher is kind of right because it's they got to get some good early return on investment from Mason Taylor and Arian Smith for the pass catching unit to be okay. I know people are like they're going to line up Brees Hall as a slot receiver. Like how many times are we going to predict that? Like Brees Hall needs to get back to being an above average running back and not fumble and not have 8 drops before we start talking about him like he's prime Christian McCaffrey. Can Brees Hall get a 3rd and 1? Let's start there, man. I don't know about this whole Brees Hall running option routes out of the slot. Remember that was what they were going to do with Le'Veon Bell. So no, I don't think there's nothing there's question marks. Like right, Jermaine Johnson, what's his health look like? If he looks good to go, then edge is not a hole. If he looks very, very limited and Clemens has to play 55% of the snaps and McGregor has to chip and everyone else has to chip in more than you like, then edge is kind of a hole. But it's more right now, it's just more of a question mark. So tight end is like a question mark. Edge is a question mark. Receiver, I would say receiver depth is a hole for sure. Safety, Tony Adams is a hole. And then like quarterback. It's crazy they mentioned offensive line stuff. Please, Armand Membu, be good. Please. Please just be good. And let this offensive line be completed for once. Fields will be fine. You're underrating him. Well, it depends on what your definition of fine is. I think you could provide a definition of fine that I would agree that Fields could achieve. I mean, everyone's underrating him. I mean, Vegas is saying we're winning 5.5 games. Vegas is saying he's throwing for 2,500 yards. 30% of Jets Twitter says he's not an NFL quarterback. So I think I'm probably like in the middle, probably even slightly more optimistic on Fields. But can he be fine? Yeah, I think he can be fine. But I think in most of the games we play, the other team will probably have a better quarterback in most of the games, I would say. I haven't looked at our schedule in a while. Well, Jets signed Javon Baker from the Pats. I mean, dude, they kept like 8 receivers and he wasn't one of them. I don't know, man. If the running game stalls, then what? Then we're gonna have a tough go of it. This team is gonna have to teams that can stop the Jets from running the ball are probably gonna beat the Jets, right? No, there might be a game or two because Fields has had games where he's popped as a passer. So there might be some games where he's hot. or Garrett Wilson is hot, or Tanner Angton is in his bag, or you just play a terrible defense. But I think for the most part, yeah, if you can successfully, like, if the Jets have a game where they run for under 100 yards, I don't think they're going to win that game, right? Do they bring back Barnes or Hayes? I don't know. I think you have to have a running back on the practice squad. That's what I'm kind of looking at positions. Like, you maybe want a running back or a tackle on the practice squad because they have linebacker Jackson Sherman on the practice squad, and they have linebacker Jamarcus Weston who's going to come back off IR. So maybe that would kind of suck for those guys to go from being on the roster one day and then 2 days later you're not even allowed to be on the practice squad. So you fall like 20 spots in one day. The Jets have over 24 million in cap space. Why not sign and trade for a wide receiver too? What are they waiting for? Well, I think it's definitely the draft capital that is a huge part of it, right? And the availability of other receivers, like how many receivers are legitimately available and for what price? Yeah, Pat Scott, DeVito. Wide receivers 2 through 5 are not going to be needed. I mean, maybe they'll surprise us, but I think I'm so curious to see this offense because I, I think they're going to run the ball in a preposterous amount of times. I really do. If they're serious about being run heavy, they need elite blocking tight ends. Well, they definitely stocked up on tight ends and then Beck, who's a fullback. So they're definitely leaning into that heavy personnel. The great head scratcher, Cole Strange, also signed by the Browns. Yeah, that's why the NFL draft is hilarious because if you gave just PFF mock draft database to a random fan, he could probably outdraft Bill Belichick. Seriously, just by chance. Just by chance, you could have outdrafted Bill Belichick at the end. It was comically bad. He's trying to be the smartest guy in the room. Sean McVay was on camera when Cole Strange was drafted, and Sean McVay almost fell out of his chair. McVay said they were doing work on him, thinking that he would be there at pick 104. I mean, I'll give Joe Douglas credit. He never did one of those. Like, even, whatever, Zach and Beck did over worse. Like, he never did a this guy should not have been taken in the first round. Those were avoided. We're a team of questions, not answers. Says James, the only one we can agree on is the high ceiling wide receiver room. Everywhere else has great intrigue capital in some way. I would honestly agree with that. I think that's a good way to summarize the roster, to be honest. Because that is the only thing we all agree on. Like, because the wide receiver room, even if they would have kept, like, I think one, and maybe it would have just been like Hopium, but if they would have kept like a Skinner and a Pritchett, but then not getting any of those guys, and then keeping Lazard and Gibson, and then now Tyler Johnson on the practice squad. Now you're looking at the 5 receivers, and you're like, uh, no, oh. Agent 100 all-purpose yards from Brees. That'd be interesting. I don't know if he'll get enough touches to do that, but obviously that would be great. Feels a lot better than I think. I mean, dude, I hope so, man, because I'm sick of not having a quarterback on this team. But then again, that would make him better than, like, everyone thinks, and the league thinks, because the league, let him sign for 20 million, right? The league let him get traded for a 6th-round pick 2 years ago. So I hope he's better than the league thinks. We definitely need that. We could use that. He's definitely better than a lot of people think. Some people think he shouldn't even be in the NFL and that he's like worse than Zach Wilson or whatever. He's not. He's not worse than Zach Wilson. Edwards is on the Commanders practice squad. $13 personnel package, 3 tight ends, perfect for Fields, big targets for short to medium gains with Garrett sneaking around. Kurt says we'll just go back to ignoring skill and double down on O-line and D-line because it's worked so well. Well, this guy's only been here 1 year. So, and they took 2 skill position players with their first 4 picks. I don't know. We'll see how they work out the roster. I mean, again, they had some skill last year. Devontae Adams, they could not cross the infamous Andy Dalton line. Andy Dalton throwing passes to Adam Thielen and Michael Nania, scored more points than the Jets. So let's just see how it goes. Now, yeah, I think this team, like, if I'm looking at next year and what's the position they need, like outside of quarterback, if they did, then yeah, it would be wide receiver for sure. Like if Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji think that this is the way the roster should be forever, and they think like, you know what, man, once we have quarterback squared away, and in a couple, whatever their time frame is, when this roster really has our mark on it, Tyler Johnson's going to be our wide receiver too. If they really think that, then fire them now. But I have a sneaky suspicion that is not their long-term vision for the team, because if Chooks Okorafor was starting a right tackle and Fields is getting destroyed week 1, the same comment will be said. We never have a good O-line. Aaron Rodgers, he was getting hit in Minnesota and Denver because of his offensive line, and Tyron Smith and Zach Wilson because the coach was mean to him. And even though every other backup came in and threw for 8,000 yards immediately in the same offense, but Zach Wilson, because the offensive line, standout offensive, and I guess that's true. The Jets have had bad offensive lines for the majority of their playoff drought. They've had bad everything. Every team drafts offensive tackle, and defensive line in the early. Every team does that. Go look at Howie Roseman's drafts. He's taking trenches. He just takes good players, and he has a franchise quarterback, and he has, I guess, a capable coach in Nick Sirianni. I don't know if Nick Sirianni is kind of like, I don't know. I'm sure he's a good coach, but I don't know if he's the main factor there. It's that offense. It's that roster. I mean, so like if next year's draft, they say we're going to take a defensive tackle and then we're going to let Simpson walk, and then we're going to take a guard at round 2, and then we're going to take a backup swing tackle in round 3. Then it's like, yeah, you know what? These guys don't even value the skill positions in the year 2025. That's a problem. But it's one draft. And let's be honest. No, to me, it's, you have to kind of reset, because I'm a Joe Douglas hater, I guess. I never criticized the guy until he had like 4 drafts. He was here for, it was like 75 games until I said a bad word. He just had a top 65 pick go unclaimed from a year ago. It took until that happened, right? You couldn't break 7 wins. It took until that. But now it's like we're kind of starting again. All right, let's see how the team building goes, right? And even if you're a Joe Douglas, if you think he was a great GM, it's not because of his first draft. Do we need to revisit it? Shall we take a gander down memory lane? Okay. Round 1, Mekhi Becton. So he got an eventual spot starter at guard. Round 2, Denzel Mims out of the league. Round 3, Ashton Davis, backup safety. Round 3, Jabari Zuniga out of the league. Round 4, LaMichael Pirine out of the league. Round 4, James Clark never made a start. Round 4, Cam Clark never made a start. Round 5, Bryce Hall, backup defensive back. Round 6, punter, Braden Mann. Then he follows it up as the first pick of his next year's draft was Zach Wilson. And then Elijah Moore at 34. Look at those first 10 picks. Michael Carter. His first 10 picks as a GM were Mekhi Becton, Denzel Mims, Ashton Davis, Jabari Zuniga, Michael P. Ryan, James Morgan, Cam Clark, Bryce Hall, Braden Mann, Zach Wilson, trades up for ABT, Elijah Moore, Michael Carter. He made one good pick in his first 10 picks. And then from there, guess what? He kind of found his fastball. Jamie and Sherwood, Michael Carter, Sauce, Garrett, Jermaine, Brees, Ruckert. Well, not that he's a good pick, but that draft class was good. Then Will McDonald, Titman. The rest of the draft class kind of meh, but you hit on your first two picks. So you didn't have a third rounder. Okay. And then Olu. And the rest of this draft class is kind of, 2024, I think, is not going to be a good one. Jordan Travis out of the league. Malachi Corley going to be out of the league maybe soon. Jalen Key, Mr. Elvin out of the league. So you kind of got Olu and then like running back depth in your whole draft. But my point is, you could kind of tell with Joe Douglas, there was growing pains. Like there was growing pains because his second, and I know it was like COVID, and they're like, we don't got to do all the excuses. Like we could just say like when you're new at something, it's harder. And I'm gonna be honest, this Jets draft from Moogs, I liked from Membu to Taylor to AZ Thomas only because Domsey has talked me into AZ Thomas. I still, maybe JBC and Stigger suck. I still was in the belief of grab Brandon Eccles back for $3 million. JBC, Stiggers, take another corner in round 6, break the pool stick, let him duke it out. Winner gets to play across Sauce. No need for Stevens, $25 million guaranteed. No need for a top 75 pick on AZ Thomas. Spend that stuff on offense and defensive line. That was my philosophy. But Domsey is like, you're an idiot. AZ Thomas was a top 20 player on his board. He's going to be a great corner. Scheme fit. Okay. I will defer to Domsey, but that is kind of, I didn't love I know it's a dumb thing to say as a fan, is to gripe about a position that they take. Because in 3 years, if he's good, it doesn't matter. But I can't help it. I still would rather have something else right now. That's why I won't be an NFL GM. But yeah, man, I like those first 4 picks. But to me, like Barron and Malagoa and trading up for Barron, it was kind of like, why? Why? Just do a normal. Take whatever defensive tackle was there. Take the Torrey Horton. Take Jared Ivey. Yeah, whatever. But so some growing pains there on the back end, I think. And there were 5th round picks. It wasn't the 7th round. So we'll see. We'll see how the team builds. Because it took, and JD got his 4/5 of this offensive line, but it took him until his 5th year. And a lot of people still, so I don't get it, man. I don't get the long leash and us remembering like Joe Douglas and Aaron Rodgers fondly. But now Aaron Glenn and them, it's the people who already want them out. I don't understand. I think it's because previously what Joe Douglas and Aaron Rodgers really gave the Jets is hope. Because what happened on the field, like you're remembering it different. It was all in your head. None of it ever happened. It was never real. It was made up. We imagined it. It was 5 wins, 7 wins. But we got to pretend for like the 8 months out of the year, we got to pretend. But now we're feeling like the pretending has even been taken away from us. Like I know the Jets are never good, but for like 2 years, we got to pretend. And now we don't even have that. I think that's people don't like that that's been taken away. But we'll see. We will see how they do. What do the Jets see in Gibson? Brother, I couldn't tell you, man. Now, I will say he had a lot of fumbles his first year as a returner, but recently that's been better. Maybe Pritchard just muffed some in practice. That's the only thing I could think of. Only thing I could think of was that they didn't trust Pritchard as a punt returner holding on to the ball. But I'm like, all right, coach, I get that, but I've seen him I was here. We were here the last 2 years. You weren't here yet, and coaches, and we've seen him muff punts and not be good at receivers. So I don't. But that's the only thing I could think of, right? What else could it be? What else could it be, man? With Gibson, I don't know. My main worry with Brees is his lack of vision since year one. Yeah, vision, confidence, aggressive explosiveness. Coaches see work ethic and coachability in Gibson. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure he seems like a good dude from all accounts. I mean, we'll see. I don't think it's the end of the world. I was hoping for Pritchard, but we'll see. Yeah, Stiggers. Stiggers is a fan favorite. I think JBC is a little better at corner, but it just came down to Stiggers. I think they really see Stiggers as a special teams ace. But obviously, the league had some interest in Stiggers because he didn't get past the second waiver spot. The year of hope gave us our best statistical season. Yeah, and I mean, sure. I mean, we got the best statistical season from our kicker and punter in 2023. We still had 7 wins. It. I mean, if Fields gives us our best, he gives us 1,000 yards this year, and it's like, wow, we never seen that before. But we win 5 games. I mean, who cares? And we don't score a lot of points. I mean, who cares? You know, 2015 was the last wide receiver group. I mean, if you don't think Garrett Wilson and Devontae, like we could squabble about the depth, but Garrett Wilson and Devontae were both top 20 receivers. If you have two top 20 receivers, you have a good wide receiver room. Because obviously. Yeah, missing out on drafting and developing. It's yeah, especially in the third and fourth round. Third and fourth round is some spot where we got to get better. So I like if Arian Smith can be a contributing playmaker right away, it'll be a good early sign. Because that's what separates the really good teams. I think those rounds 2 through 5. Because first round picks, okay, sure. I mean, back at last year's class. Some of us wanted Olu. That'll probably be end up being a good pick. Some people wanted Bowers. That'd be a great pick. Some people wanted Brian Thomas Jr. That was Jet Central's guy. The kid was like an all-pro already. His your first season. Dylan Turman went off the beaten path. He wanted Jared Verse. Jared Verse is an absolute stud. Premium position. It would have been a great pick. Trade up for Neighbors. Yeah, maybe you didn't have to in that rich of a draft class, but Neighbors is unbelievable. So they really any of the guys you were talking about would have been fine. Even Fuanga, who I wasn't a big fan of, he's still a capable starting tackle and worthy of being a first round pick. So that's easy, man. And then once you get to like rounds like 6, 7 UDFA, it's almost a crapshoot. Oh, it's a lottery ticket. When you have like a 71st overall pick, that's not a lottery ticket, man. That's a high pick. We gotta start valuing those third and fourth and into fifth round picks. Like that's where we've missed. And obviously a big part of that is coaching, because players who are taken in rounds 3 and 4 need more development than players who are taken in rounds 1, obviously. Yeah, that was some pretty bad coaching. Yeah, but Kurt, the depth didn't play a lot. Like what okay, in the time that we had Garrett and Devontae together, the depth didn't play a lot, you know? So the depth wasn't tested that much. Corley almost scored a touchdown last year. Yeah, almost. Why'd they give up on Corley so soon? I don't know, man. It seemed like they didn't really have him figured into the plans. Like this coaching staff, once they broke with the preseason, they just kind of were like, they didn't really seem to have him in the cards. So I don't know. He wasn't showing enough on special teams or as like a route runner, I guess. Yeah, I agree. Lottery ticket is the wrong approach. Like it should be like, no, this is a player we have conviction in and like a set plan for. And people like get mad about it. Some people get very mad about it, but I think they just stopped watching, the people who care about this. But I'll bring up like how the Bills have built their team. It's like, oh, go be a Bills fan. It's like, dude, this team went from being us, from having the longest playoff drought in sports. That was them. Like not that long ago, I lived here. I was here when the Bills had the longest playoff drought in sports, and now they've won more games than anybody besides the Chiefs. Like the last 5 years, they're dog walking our division. They're going to win our division by like 5 games, and we're going to pretend that we can't learn. We can't look at them to learn anything. It's stupid. And what they've done is they have a really high floor to their draft picks for the most part. You know, you look at when Bean got there in 2017. How about we rip off of a 10-year starter at left tackle in round 2 and a multiple all-pro linebacker in round 5? How about we get a franchise quarterback the next year in round 1, a all-pro guard in round 5, a starting defensive tackle in round 2, a starting linebacker who was overdrafted in round 1. Like Ed Oliver, the next draft. Even Gabe Davis, what was he, round 5, starting receiver a couple of years. You get Greg Rousseau, you get James Cook, Terrell Bernard, Khalil Shakir. Like, look at the 2022 Bills. Terrell Bernard, 3rd round, very good starting linebacker. Khalil Shakir, 5th round, wide receiver 2. Christian Benford, top 20 corner, round 6. That's where we got to start cooking, man. Cole Bishop went in the 2nd round. That's a bad pick. I didn't know that. And then their approach this year was like, they're like, F it. We couldn't get off the field. They just drafted all defense. They're like, we scored 30 points a game. We still lose into the Chiefs because we can't get Mahomes off the field. They go corner, DT, defensive end, DT, safety. That's what I want the Jets to do. If the Jets take I'm serious. If the Jets take a quarterback next year, if they take a quarterback next year, take every other pick besides maybe like the last 2 and take it on offense. And if your defense falls off a bit, so be it, because their defense falling off, because then we don't have to question it. Oh, he didn't have the help. He didn't have the weapon. Next year, okay, take a quarterback in round 1. All right, take a wide receiver in round 2. Take whatever, another tight end in round 4, another I don't care, a swing tackle around 4. I don't just offense, the rest of it. Yeah. As Hackenberg put it, the coaches kind of expected him to develop. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. I mean, imagine if you could really experience it, like, if you got to go to a practice for, like, Jeff Ulbrich or, like, Sean McVay. Imagine how shockingly it probably feels like a different league. So I'm hoping we can end this year feeling like we have a good coaching staff, because that'll be a win. That'll be a great start. And it's like, oh, if we lost, these games because we had this hole, and like, oh, we thought the wide receivers were going to be bad, and that was kind of true. Okay, but we have eyes. We'll be able to parse apart like kind of what is coaching and what is limitations in the roster. I think. I think this is actually a good question, right? How many losses? Because there has to be a limit. You can't say like, oh, we were a competitive 2-15. Like, no, you sucked, man. You go 2-15, you have bad coaches. I'm sorry. So it's gotta be, dude, the absolute minimum is 6 wins. If you lose less than if you win less than 6 games, you're horrible. Because all the other teams that lose less than that, they're looking at replacements at coaching and GM. There's no way you can sell me on like a 5-win season being a positive. I would say 7, truly. But if you really want to put my feet to the fire, there was an injury. Okay, we lost 3 games by 1 point. Okay, but really it should be 7 and 10. And that's kind of sad, but that is, I think, that's like the minimum, right? It's the minimum. You got to get better from last year. We are going to be 9 to 11 wins. People sleep on the Jets. When people sleep on the Jets, we do good. That is very true. The Jets do not handle expectations well. The Jets do much better when they are an afterthought, right? Like after 2012, could not handle the expectations. 2016 could not handle expectations. 2023, injury to Rodgers. 2024 could not handle the expectations. Yeah, 2022. And then it was like, oh man, are we going to be a playoff team? I don't know. Let's panic. What's going on? And then we collapsed. We could have won 8 games last year if we had a kicker. Yeah, if we had a great kicker, like if we had Nick Folk, if we went from the least accurate kicker to the most accurate kicker, yeah, I would say that would have been 3 games last year, probably. Dan Campbell only won 3 games his first season. Yeah, I get that, man, but isn't that sort of like Peyton Manning threw 20 interceptions his rookie year, where it's like, no, actually, like doing bad is evidence that you're going to be good. And I get it. There's exceptions, but I would rather like doing good being evidence that we're going to be good instead of pointing to, right? Because it's like, I don't want like Membu to be unplayable. And then we say, Andrew Thomas had a horrible rookie year. And then yeah, but I'd rather it just be, no, he looks good. 3 wins would be tough. What did that Lions roster look like? They must have improved that roster pretty quickly. 3 wins would be tough. The Jets found ways to lose last year. Penalties, dumb comebacks, slow starts, terrific play design. Rodgers playing hurt. Lose the game for the same reason. Yeah, it was every way they could lose a game. It was almost impressive how they found ways to lose. Gator says the Jets fan base seems to be the only group that sees the Jets winning 7 or more games. The rest of the league and commentators trash the Jets. Predictions this year. Are we biased? Yeah, we're all biased. You can be biased in a positive or negative way. Honestly, I have seen some national media members kind of praise the Jets for going with Aaron Glenn and making the tough decision to make that change at quarterback. Um, but yeah, obviously they're predicted to win 5.5 or 6 games, depending on where you look. I don't know. I think if I were to do a poll, I bet you the average prediction would be like 7.5 to 8. So I think we're probably feeling the Jets are 2 more wins better than most. And then obviously if it's like a Dolphins fan, they're gonna say 2 wins, but that's kind of where it's been for me. The Jets, since I've been doing the channel, the Jets consistently have been, besides last year where it was a disaster, they've consistently been about 2 wins worse than I thought. Jets will be in the hunt for a playoff game all the way to the last game of the season. I hope so, man. I really hope so. Engstrand, our schedule. Yeah, it just starts so tough, man. But yeah, there's definitely there's teams that should we should beat. There's teams that we definitely have more talent than. The Saints, you got to beat the Saints, man. Never clever play calling. Engstrand is he's Glenn's biggest decision so far is Engstrand. Fields isn't, because a quarterback that you pay the 24th highest paid QB in the league on essentially a 1-and-1 contract. That's not the biggest decision so far. If the Jets take a quarterback at number 11 overall next year, then that'll be Glenn's biggest decision. Right now, Glenn's biggest decision so far. I mean, even not even moving on from Rodgers, because even Rodgers would have only played 1 more year, and it wasn't going to be like a crazy playoff run that would have granted him a lot of job security. So Rodgers was a short-term decision. His biggest decision so far, most significant, is Tanner Engstrand. How will he do? You got to be able to hire an offensive staff. I think that's why Dan Quinn is a really solid coach. I mean, the dude, he hired Kyle Shanahan and he hired Cliff Kingsbury. What's up, Jake? Late night BJF. Does it get more magical? Thanks, Jet D'Angel. Can they bring back Johnson past week 1? Yeah, they can. They could bring him up whenever. They can bring him up from the practice squad whenever. So I have a feeling we're gonna see Tyler Johnson week 1. Fields throw for 25 touchdowns with 3,000 passing yards. If he plays in 17 games, I would say right around 3,000 passing yards. I would probably go less than 25, because if you look around the league recently, 25 would rank pretty high around the NFL. Like, who are the leaders? I just don't think we're going to have enough passing volume to do that. What did Rodgers throw last year? 26, and we threw the ball 1,000 million times. Not that it's the end all be all of like stats. Like, how many touchdown passes did Jaden Daniels throw last year? I don't know. Not a ton. He was like the 5th best quarterback in the NFL still. Joe Burrow. Oh, Joe Burrow threw 43. Baker Mayfield threw 41 touchdowns last year? Jeez. Yeah, but then it drops off pretty quickly. So 25 would have been 10th last year. Like Mahomes threw 27. Rodgers threw 28. Allen 28. Bo Nix 29. Sam Darnold 35. I guess Sam Darnold is better than Jaden Daniels. The stats say so. So no, man, let's keep scrolling here. Like maybe more towards 18, like 20th in the league in touchdown passes, maybe. $18 touchdowns with 8 rushing. Actually, Sean, I think that's pretty. I would say that's fair. So like 25-ish total touchdowns. Yeah, Baker 71% completions, 41 touchdowns, 16 picks is kind of high, but just under 8 yards per attempt. Lamar Jackson threw for almost 9 yards per attempt. And 41. Dude, how did Lamar not win MVP? Allen is obviously a beast. Allen's crazy good, but dude, Lamar, come on. Lamar threw for 41 touchdowns and 4 picks. That's like a 2019 Aaron Rodgers, like those latter MVPs where he was just doing cartoonish numbers, but also you're like a top 2 rushing quarterback ever. That is disgusting. And he threw for more yards than Allen. He threw for what over a yard more per attempt. I know this is all numbers, but these are like at least efficiency numbers, not just volume numbers. It's like at least QBR. See, QBR kind of does. I know a lot of people hate QBR. I think QBR doesn't lie too often. Lamar's QBR was 77.3. Oh my gosh. That's crazy. Where did Fields rank in QBR? This will tell us all we need to know. Where are you, Justin Fields? Did you not have enough passes? Mm-hmm. 29th. He was right in between Aiden O'Connell and Aaron Rodgers. How about that? Yeah, Lamar is just preposterous. He's so good. It's ridiculous. He has had some individually bad playoff performances, though. I can't lie. He has had a couple. Even last year, it's like, dude, just don't fumble. Just don't drop the ball, return for a touchdown, and you win. Oh, he's so good. I love Lamar. When the Jets are eliminated, last year I was rooting for Lamar to get a ring. Super chat from Jets for Life. 5 receivers, or do we trade for a receiver? Who? I mean, I know it's like another mid guy, but one second. Kendrick Bourne did get cut, who I used to like. Now he's just like old and he's been injured, but I used to be a really big fan of Kendrick Bourne's game. He's kind of a poor man's Jacoby Myers. That 2021 season, he really popped 800 yards. He's had like 400 yards, 300 yards, been kind of banged up since then. He was released at the least when I started the stream, he had not been signed. But yeah, man, Kendrick Bourne is like, it's just so hard because our receivers like 2 through 5, I don't know how to even rank them. Like Kendrick Bourne could be the 3rd best receiver on this team. Maybe. I don't know. but the Patriots wide receiver room isn't very good, and he couldn't make their team, so maybe he sucks now. So he was available. Waivers are done and picked over. If it's a trade, I think Myers is the big one out there that we know is available. Yeah, Tyler Johnson on the practice squad. But maybe Myers. That'd be kind of it'd be surprising to me at this point. I think the receiving room is what it is. I don't know. I hope Arian Smith is good, man. I hope Arian Smith is good right away, and so is Mason Taylor. Because at least, dude, you got to give Smith a shot now. You got to give Smith a shot. Like if you want to roll with this wide receiver room, all right, we'll see how it goes. But you can't be like Arian Smith is inactive now because we have like 7 different versions of Tyler Johnson that have to play. Let's give the kid a chance. I'll leave it there. Appreciate you guys hanging out. If you wanted the thumbs up on your way out, that'd be cool. Go Jets.